All right, we're going to get started. So welcome. We're glad you could join us for the next half hour or so. Today we're going to dive into a topic that is both emotional, physical, and financial, and that's caring for aging parents. My name is Cindy Miller, and I am a certified financial planner, but I'm also a sister, a wife, and a mom. And today I've invited my three sisters, Sue, Lisa, and Judy, to join me in this important conversation because of our real life experience. In the end, we're going to open this up for your questions. And Sue, would you kindly introduce our story?
Sure. Thanks, Cindy. Our mom passed away in March of 2022, and our journey with her care began in earnest almost 10 years before that, in June of 2013. That was when we found out that she'd been defrauded a lot of money over a period of years by someone we knew and trusted. That story is about senior vulnerability, and that's for another webinar. But I mentioned this because it was our first clue that mom was really not using her full capabilities.
Thanks, Sue. So today I wanted to share that we're going to talk about the growing prevalence of caregiving and what that looks like for families. It's the emotional, financial, and physical toll that it can take, and some strategies to plan ahead, navigate family dynamics, and protect your own financial future. And it's about our story too, and how we work together, and some tools that we use to make this a smoother ride. It wasn't perfect, but in the end, it's been a better life for all of us. We'll also give you our top 3 ideas on how to manage your situation, which may allow your loved one to stay at home as long as possible. Our top 3 C's for care are: get a camera, set up communications, and collect the documents that you need. Lisa, would you kindly talk about the scope of this challenge?
Sure. Let's start with just how common this is. There are now 63 million caregivers in the US, according to AARP magazine in July 2025, which is a 45% increase over the last decade. That means almost 1 in 4 Americans is providing care for someone else. Right, Judy?
Yes, Lisa. And most of them are not doing this casually. Many live with the person that they care for, or live within about 20 minutes of them, according to the Wall Street Journal on September 4th, 2024. The closer you are geographically, the more hours of care you're likely providing, sometimes 20, 30, or even 40 plus hours a week. In our case, we all live within 2 hours of each other and of our mom. We tried to factor in our proximity to mom to what we asked of each other. Lisa lived the closest and received most of mom's urgent calls. We tried to help out for the things that we could plan for.
Exactly. And almost 30% of caregivers have been providing care for 5 years or more, according to the Wall Street Journal on September 4th, 2024. This isn't a short-term commitment for most people. It's something that can last a significant portion of your working years or retirement. We took care of mom for almost 10 years after the bank defrauding event in 2013.
We sometimes call this the silent second job. People often don't factor in how much time caregiving will require until they're in it already and trying to juggle work, kids, and their own health. Lisa was working full time. She had children and grandchildren in and out of her home and still found time to take mom food shopping even before we took mom's driver's license away. She also got the calls when mom fell and had to go to the hospital. Oh, I could go on and on.
So who are the caregivers? The average caregiver is 51 years old, and about 61% are women, according to the Wall Street Journal in that same article. Many are part of what's called the sandwich generation, which when they're caring for both children and aging parents simultaneously.
And we're seeing that especially among younger caregivers. Nearly half of those under age 50 are looking after both an older adult and a child under 18, according to the Wall Street Journal. That's a tremendous amount of pressure. It's emotional, physical, and financial. For a while, I was coordinating my son's elementary school schedule with my husband's work and travel schedule and trying to squeeze in helping with mom's doctor's appointments. Lisa was working, caring for her grandchild on her day off, and mom on the same day. So this was reaching across 4 generations.
I remember that. We should also note that caregiving doesn't just mean running errands or checking in once in a while. The Wall Street Journal also explains that 2/3 of caregivers help with at least one activity of daily living, like things such as bathing, dressing, or feeding. In the beginning, I was taking mom shopping or to the hairdresser. And as the years progressed, we cleaned, did yard work, laundry, all her bills and financial responsibilities, and some personal care. Later, she needed encouragement to do the smallest things like changing clothes or showering.
And the Wall Street Journal explains that more than half are doing medical or nursing tasks as well, like administering injections, managing medications, or monitoring vital signs, often with little to no formal training. We filled her pill dispensers each week and monitored them to make sure she was taking her pills when she was supposed to. We found out that we needed a meds calendar to make sure she was taking the right pills at the right time. We could see that an automated pill dispenser could be a helpful gift for someone. Also, lots of reminder and post-it notes. We even did things such as made little framed notes on her kitchen table and nightstand to remind her to take her hearing aids out, along with a bowl to put them in before bed.
I remember that. All right, let's shift back to the emotional and physical impacts too. So caregiving is rewarding, but it also can be exhausting. Wall Street Journal noted that 2/3 of caregivers report moderate or high emotional stress, and nearly half experience physical strain.
Yes, you can see the toll it can take: burnout, insomnia, anxiety, and even worsening health for the caregiver. And there's often guilt associated with it all, either from feeling like you're not doing enough or from neglecting your own family or career while you focus on your parents. We were tired and we tried to keep the burden even, but it's nearly impossible. Closest one, Lisa, got more of the calls. One thing we did was try to meet regularly by phone, video, text, or a sister's dinner out.
And this is why we encourage caregivers to think about support systems early. Support networks like friends, family, online caregiver groups, and local experts who can help when it's time to make some hard decisions around medical care or when to move into a nursing facility. For example, we consulted with Amy, local expert who was a nurse and a lawyer, who assisted us with understanding hospital policies and procedures, how to manage the nursing home administration, how mom was declining physically and cognitively, which helped us accept what was really happening and allowed us to be at peace with the decisions we made on her behalf.
Another thing is also respite care, which means hiring outside helpers or using a senior care facility, even adult daycare for coverage to take breaks or vacation. And self-care, like exercise, hobbies, and downtime. These are not luxuries. their necessities to stay healthy enough to continue providing care. We invented Sisters Night Out as a result of our time to plan, to tell stories about what mom did or said, and that helped us keep some levity in the situation. And it's also important to acknowledge that caregivers often need permission, sometimes from themselves, to accept help. Trying to do everything alone is rarely sustainable. If you don't have a sisters or siblings or friends network, make your own.
Now let's turn to talk about the financial side, because this can be one of the most surprising and stressful parts. AARP tells us that 1/3 of caregivers have stopped saving to cover expenses. And 23%, that's almost quarter of the people, report going into debt. Some have tapped retirement accounts or college savings just to keep up.
And the cost of professional care keeps rising. According to the website www.longtermcare.gov, home health aides now cost about $33 an hour on the average, which is nearly $290,000 a year for 24/7 care. That's more than twice the annual cost of a nursing home room.
And unfortunately, Medicare doesn't cover long-term unskilled custodial care, just skilled nursing for up to 100 days after a hospital stay. So look on the Medicare.gov website. Families are often shocked to learn that they need to self-fund most care. So I want to pause for a moment here. Medicare will cover 100 days after a hospital stay that is coded as admission. They call it a qualified stay, but it's very hard to be marked as admitted. Most hospitals will keep you for observation, and that's not the same thing as being admitted. Even you can be there for several days. And this is why I stress planning ahead with all of my clients, looking at long-term care insurance options, setting aside funds, and exploring what resources might be available through community or employer programs. So what I want you to think about is, whoever you are, wherever you are, you need a plan. You need a long-term plan, and you need to tell your loved ones around you about your plan, what your wishes are.
So as you know, one of the hardest parts about that plan can be managing siblings and other family members. We found that a weekly virtual meeting was a minimum for us to stay informed and helpful and sane.
Yeah, and I do hear about differences of opinions within families over care, over those care decisions, whether parents should move, who's paying for what, and who's doing enough. So our experience tells us that these things helped us, and they help you, and help keep things in balance. So number one, create that open dialogue, meaning you're listening and you're sharing, where everyone gets a chance to voice their concerns.
Setting ground rules to keep the focus on the parents' best interests.
Clearly dividing responsibilities. Even if someone can't provide hands-on care, they may be able to contribute financially or help coordinate appointments or hire outside help.
Seeking mediation if necessary. Sometimes having a neutral third party can keep discussions productive. We also used outside experts to help us make medical decisions that we didn't understand.
Talking openly cannot be said too many times. Over communicate. Put it out there what you're doing and why.
Being patient. Everyone and everything is changing, not just your loved one. You're tired, they're confused, and try to keep everything in perspective. There will be a day when they are no longer with you and won't need your care.
So what can families do before caregiving becomes urgent?
Again, start with conversations. Talk with parents about their wishes, including where they want to live, what type of care they'd prefer, and how they'd like their finances handled.
Then it's time to get organized. Update legal documents like wills, powers of attorney, and advance directives. Make sure accounts are titled correctly, beneficiaries are up to date, and someone knows where everything is located, including passwords for all the online accounts.
And when you are facing this care head on and your loved one is home, our favorite tools that kept us informed were cameras in the house, strategically placed, so you know what is happening in the kitchen and outside the bathroom areas, prime places for accidents. Medical alarms or an Apple Watch to monitor for falls. Day-to-day documents should be kept up to date. Medication lists, calendars of doctor appointments, a notebook to keep a record of who came and what they did.
And build caregiving into your financial plan. I can help model potential care costs and stress test your retirement plan to see how supporting parents might affect your long-term goals. There are great tools out there, including cost of care calculators and senior living comparisons that we can walk through together so you can know what to expect.
Caregiving is one of the most personal, challenging, and rewarding responsibilities many of us will face. But with preparation, you can approach it with clarity rather than crisis.
If you're already a caregiver or expect to be one, start the conversation now. Together, you can explore options, create a plan, and give you confidence that both your parents' needs and your own financial future are supported.
Caring for aging parents can feel like stepping into uncharted territory, emotionally, financially, physically, and even logistically. But the good news is you don't have to navigate it alone.
Exactly. We've talked today about the scope of caregiving, the emotional and physical toll it can take, and the financial planning considerations that can make a big difference. The most important takeaway is that early, open conversations and thoughtful planning can ease the burden for everyone involved.
If you're already providing care, remember that support is out there, whether that's respite care, caregiver support groups, or financial guidance. And if you're not there yet, but see this responsibility on the horizon, now is the time to get prepared.
And this is where I can help. I work with families to map out the potential costs of care and stress test those financial plans. I can help you review and update key legal and financial documents by helping to coordinate with other professionals, like estate planning lawyer, estate attorneys, and CPAs to make sure everything is aligned. So my goal is to give you clarity and confidence so that you can focus on your parents and your family without sacrificing your own financial security. As you can see and hear from us, we advocate for getting a long-term care plan together that is part financial, part family. If this conversation has resonated with you, I'd love to connect one-on-one. We can walk through your specific situation, run some what-if scenarios, and help you put a plan in place before that crisis forces your hand. Okay, let's see what questions you might have had. Let me look in the questions. Let's see if we have anything over here. All right, I think we have a couple questions. Let's see. All right. Did you have to take your mom's driver's license away? And how were you able to do it? Sue, this one's yours.
I was mostly involved with this one. I was not the favorite daughter, so it was okay for me to deal with this. Mom had had several fender benders and 2 at-fault accidents, at which time her insurance was canceled. Unless she wanted to pay, and she chose to, a super premium high rate. During this time, and along with her, we spoke to her physician a couple of times expressing our concerns. So after a couple of visits, he finally submitted a cognitive impairment form to the state of Pennsylvania, indicating he believed her license should be revoked. Mom then received a letter in the mail indicating she was to relinquish her license in 10 days. Of course, she was livid. Still in denial, she chose to have a driving test at Bryn Mawr Rehab, which she did not pass, and so her driving privileges would not be restored. Still convinced she could drive though, and since we wanted to keep her parked in the driveway for security reasons,
Yeah.
we found out she was continuing to drive without a valid license. We finally had to disconnect the battery to discourage her, and so she finally acquiesced.
Yeah, she couldn't figure out how to connect the battery again. Okay.
Do what you
Okay.
gotta do.
Yeah. Any other questions out there? Any folks have anything they'd like to add? Any other questions? Okay, I think we have another question. Let me see. How were you able to approach the difficult conversations with your mother, and like handling her finances? Oh boy. Okay. All right. Who wants to do this one, Lise?
Sure. Well, basically, we used real life situations that were either related to her or other people she knew, situations to which she could relate. Avoiding certain topics only works for so long, and Mom was very good at avoiding topics that insinuated her losing control and the inevitability of her end of life. However, we took advantage of her being scammed to kindly explain that that might not have happened if there were another set of eyes on her checkbook. And so we were able to get her to assign me as her POA. We also explained that it wasn't happening now, and she was still able to keep her checkbook for when she thought she'd no longer be able to manage that part of her life. And eventually that part did come.
Mm-hmm.
That was how we did it for Mom. Give her examples of how a document could work, not for now, but for when she needed it in the future.
Okay, I don't see any other questions out there, so I'm going to just say as our way to wrap up our conversation today and open the door for you, for your questions. We want to, again, share our 3 C's, our 3 C's of caring, which is get a camera. That was invaluable. By the way, you already know those cameras. You can see that this was so many years ago, and I'm sure they're much better now. But everything was on our phone. We would get pings through the night when things were happening. We could see if she fell. So that was really very helpful. And then set up communications between siblings. Make sure between your parents, and then people who are around. People in our neighborhood knew what was going on so that they could be involved. They'll pick up the newspaper in case there was anything, and they would tell us if there was a problem. They could tell us that as well, so that you know what's happening. And then the third thing is just collect your documents, whether that is setting up, making sure that you have your powers of attorney, all the documents you might need, medication lists, calendars, anything that you know that you might need, put it all in one place. And Judy's point about the passwords, we really need to, because you always forget about that. Make sure your password's available, because especially in our world now. I think that's it. From anything else you all want to add in? Nope, thank you.
I think we
Thank you
covered.
very much for being here today. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here
Thank you.
today.
Thanks
We
for
wish you-
listening to our story.
Yes, we wish you all good health and strength, especially if you are facing these kinds of situations, and all the best in this new year.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.